Good morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. I hope you are doing well. Today's the day that we start to take apart the summer beds at the farm and flip them for fall. So it's another absolutely gorgeous day today. It is overcast. It is 59 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a light breeze. It's amazing. It's perfect weather to be working outside, especially because, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got red splotches all over my arms and my hands. My rash is improving in the spots that it started in, but it's spreading down my arms. So what we're going to be doing today and tomorrow, there's a light chance, 40% chance of some rain on Wednesday, which would be amazing. I don't think it's gonna be a lot of rain, but any rain in September is astonishing and wonderful. So we'll take it. But then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Mike and I are taking Dylan back to Oregon to go back to school for his sophomore year in college. And so those days will not be at work. Basically, Aiden's going to be left with having to water the garden and take care of the chickens and all that kind of stuff and get himself to and from school and all those things. He can do that. He's totally capable. But so I want to get as much done in the next couple days while it's still cool as possible, because during those times, during the days that we're going to be gone, it's going to be back up into the 90s Fahrenheit, which is really hot. And all those new seedlings that went into the ground in the fall garden are going to need daily water in order not to die. Okay, so the process here is very simple and it's kind of meditative. So we're going to start by removing the flower support netting. I'm actually going to go in and harvest some of this stuff for drying first, and harvest a few of these stems that are usable. Like there's a couple tall, a few stems for the final week of the CSA this week. And so I'll get the zinnias and these sunflowers, basically just harvest what we've got out here for bouquets for Wednesday. But then we will come in, take down the flower support netting, pull up the stakes, and then we're going to start pulling out all the plants. And so that's going to be a pretty big job, but it's fun. It's always fun. I like to cut them off at the base so that we can leave the roots in the ground to continue to decompose. And then we're going to pull up all the irrigation and remake these beds to their proper width, because right now the pathways are wider than the beds. So we'll do that. We'll get rid of any weeds. And then when the compost arrives, we put a layer of compost down with the amendments, reattach all the irrigation, and then we'll probably cover this until it's time to plant in about 3 weeks. That's a lot to do for all these beds, and it's going to take multiple days. And so today I probably am just going to focus on harvesting what's here that can go for bouquets, and then taking down the netting. Then tomorrow we'll come out and we'll string trim everything, not string trim, use the hedge trimmer because it just kind of slides across the surface to get all those plants down. We'll move those into the compost bin, and then we'll do the rest of the process. So it's going to be a lot of work, but it's fun kind of work. And like I said, it's kind of meditative in a way, which is strange to say, but it's manual labor that's not too challenging, and it's just kind of a process. So I look forward to this, especially when the weather is like this. Is absolutely stunning, beautiful weather right now, and I love not being in the sun. So good for me right now with all these rash issues going on. So I'm gonna go fill up my buckets and get started on some harvesting, but let's real quick come down. I just want to see what kind of rodent activity we've had since we've been out here. It's been a week. Everything's looking good. This, I am going to put a whole bunch of cardboard in the bottom of this bed before I fill it with soil. We have it, and that way it will keep the soil from falling through as fast. And then I would still like to build one more bed to go on this end, so that we have 2 protected beds in addition to the tulip bed down there. Oh, little deer just crossed the road. Yeah, I mean, look at all these tunnels from the rodents in here. I'm actually stunned that any of these dahlia tubers survive. Now this is another big job, but this is going to happen in October. So in the interim, they're just going to hang out here till I can get to them. The final thing I wanted to check is to see how the mums are doing, and actually looking pretty good. We're about to have a whole bunch of blooms, which is great because I need them for wholesale quite badly at this point since there's nothing else on the farm. But I can harvest some of these yellow ones for bouquets, at least ones that don't look all eaten up. So we'll see. Yeah, these guys are suffering a little bit, but like I've got aphids. That really stinks. And I don't have a hose out here, so I can't, spray them with water. And I doubt the ladybugs are going to show up. So we'll see how far we get on these. You know, it is what it is. I was listening to Nicole over at Flower Hill Farm last week talk about how it was her worst year ever of farming on her farm. And there was a lot of things that led up to that, but she had a ton of devastation from cows and deer and all that kind of stuff. And I can totally identify. It's been that kind of year for me too. But you just do what you can and you pick up and you keep moving because that's what you do unless you want to quit. And I don't want to quit. All right, let me get this stuff harvested and then start pulling up some of the netting. And then we'll see how far we get. I am on a tighter time frame today because I do have to go run some errands, and then I gotta pick Aiden up from school. So get as much done as possible, and then we'll just be back out here tomorrow morning. Well, it may not look like a whole lot of a difference, but believe it or not, I have been making progress. So I got the netting down from here, which involved cutting a lot of the tops off because they grow through the netting, and it was just too hard to get the netting off otherwise. So I've already hauled that down to the compost area. And then I did get the netting off of 2 of the rows. In here, I only have 1 more to do. It's that one on the far end there. That one won't be so bad. It'll be pretty easy, but you can see how much big stuff I've got to cut down. Now the Lisianthus, I'm actually going to just pull out. It's got a very, very shallow root system, and it'll be easier than cutting it off at the top, because if I cut it off just along the surface, I'll have to, some of that will just come up anyway when I go to pull up the landscape fabric. So I'm just going to pull those up. That'll be super fast. Noticing tons of weeds, like big weeds that I've got to take care of too. So I don't plan on tilling anything other than the sides of the beds to put in wood chips for borders to keep the weeds out of the beds next year. But what I wanted to share with you is that this bed that I was working on today, so we've got Statice, an oak tree that obviously needs to come out, Feverfew, a little bit more Statice, Scabiosa, more Feverfew, straw flowers, Feverfew. All of this was planted last October. These plants are cold hardy annuals, which is what I'm seeding right now in the greenhouse. I can't recommend them enough for your own garden. You put these in, and some of them, like the Feverfew and the Statice, depending on your zone, are short-lived perennials, and they can be there for a couple of years at least. These plants are powerhouses. I get 2, 3, sometimes 4 cuts off of these plants. Put them in the ground in October, baby them until the spring. Then they take off because they've already have established root systems. So if I plant in the spring, which I'll be doing as well, but it'll be down at the far end of the farm, that'll be a second spring succession. Those plants will take longer because they have to first establish the root system in cold soil, right? So these guys go in the ground in October in the warm soil. They establish their root systems. They stay small because the light is changing. But then when the spring comes, when the soil temperatures start to warm up, they just explode. And then you have earlier blooms, and you have blooms for literally a full year. Now, if I needed this bed, I would have pulled them all up. No problem, because these are basically spring flowers. I would have pulled them on up and put, other stuff in here. But the way it worked out this year with all the damage and all that stuff, we didn't need this bed. But the point is, if you are looking for some hard-working, beautiful flowers that you can use fresh or dried, some of them, like the Feverfew, even have medicinal qualities, I highly recommend these flowers. So that's Statice, Scabiosa, Feverfew, and Strawflower. Those guys. Amazing. They'll produce year after year. And if you let them go to seed, they will reproduce in that spot next year without you having to do anything. So it's so worth it. I just wanted to share that. I did get quite a bit harvested I only have to make 3 bouquets because it's the end of the season and there's only 3 customers for this week. So I will have to get some focal flowers at home. I think I have some hydrangea left, but there's plenty of filler flowers and stuff in here. And a lot of this, especially the straw flower, will get dried, and the Statice too, but very pretty. We've got some ageratum in here, which I didn't even plant as a row crop. That happens to be in the pollinator patch over there, but it had some nice long stems, so I went ahead and harvested those. Yeah, I would like to stay out and keep working, but I have some errands to run, and then I got to pick up Aiden. Since he's a senior this year, he only has 6 classes instead of 7, so he gets out early. Okay, that's going to be it for me today, you guys. I'm excited to come out tomorrow and make more progress here. It just feels good when you start doing a big project like this. It's kind of like renovation, only it happens faster and you get to see this huge result. It just feels good. Kind of the same reason why I like to iron and vacuum, because it's like a visible result. Okay, thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.